Leadership is a very nuanced thing. Some people seem to have it, some people don't. Well, that's fine because the world needs followers. They're called doers. They get things done. Okay? Leaders just find a way to maybe lead a pack and make sure that it gets done in the best possible way. And sometimes they're the brains of an organization. Sometimes somebody steps up and becomes a leader. What I'm saying to you is this. We're going to break down today what makes a leader, the skills and the experiences and the life experiences, and the character needed to be a leader today on the Military Historian channel. Stick around. We're going to get into it. And we are back to the Military Historian channel, and I'm back with my greatest, funnest, best guest ever. If you were to see his resume, it's sort of like a long rap sheet of a New York criminal, you know, that goes for days and days. The only problem is his is full of accomplishments. This man I have here today is Don Morrison. He's the Vice President of Security Operations worldwide at Warner Brothers. Oh my gosh. Hi, Don.
Hey, Lloyd, how are you?
Good, how are you doing? And I'm not saying he was a criminal. No.
No.
He's a great guy.
Maybe some tendencies.
But he's my boss, so he can say that. So, Don, I had a chance to go through your resume when we were talking about doing this interview. And by the way, thank you for being here. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And I was blown away by the level of professionalism and the places you have been. You have been at Homeland Security, you've been a state trooper, you've been CID military, you've been a trainer at Homeland, you have been a force protection advocate for quite a while, actually doing it for a long time, and you have been at studios helping with security at studios. Just where did you get all of this training? Plus you have a master's and a bachelor's degree. It's crazy. Your education matches your experience.
Well, that's because it's 30-some years worth of it, Lloyd. That's where it came from.
Okay, well, you know, I can believe that. You have a master's degree in leadership, and I happen to work for him, and I can tell you that it shows, because the way he treats people, he treats them with respect, and he handles his people in a way that, I'm going to say this. I have honestly believed that there are two types of leaders in the world. Ones that lead by fear. Yeah. They'll tell you that there's nobody incompetent in the room but them, and that everybody needs to do what they're told and agree with them, or they're going to be out of there.
Yeah.
Okay. So consequently, the organizations tend to fail in the long run and nobody has the nerve to say anything. The other one is the ones who promote by success. That is very much a military concept, promoting by success. So if you promote somebody else's success, your success will come along with it.
That's exactly right. And that's where it comes from, Lloyd. I mean, you know, my whole background, the majority of my background is military. So the military was the actual fundamental groundbreaking basis for me. So everything that I learned about being a leader came from mostly military times. Now, you mentioned earlier about my degree in leadership. It wasn't because of the military that I went and got that. It was because I'd had some bad leaders in my time, and I just didn't want to be one of them. So I wanted to learn more about it and make sure that if I left somebody, I wanted to make them better than what they were, or at least try. I didn't want to be that leader that it just broke people down, and, you know, they were just torn apart and just, you know, down on themselves because they thought they were failures when they were really not.
Sure. And the thing that I remember best about the best leaders I have ever been under, and I've been an acting first sergeant, you've been an acting first sergeant, you have stood in as a leader, you've had people working for you and working with you, is that when you promote their success, you are really promoting your competency as well. And that is not an easy concept because it doesn't necessarily shine through right at the top right away. It shines through when somebody looks back at your career and they go, wow, he had 10 people who made it to command sergeant major,
He had another 20 that made it to sergeant first class, and every one of them were valuable assets in the command. Is that correct?
That is, who hammered that into me the most, Lloyd? I think would have to be those generals, man, those top generals, because when you think about it, once you get at that rank and that level,
Right.
you're not going any higher. That's the highest you're going to get. So
That's true. And once you're 4-star, 3-star, you're done.
Yeah, that's it. You are the pinnacle, right? So when you watch them and watch how they lead people and how they talk to people, it's not about, when you talk about that weak leader, it's not about you're inferior about what you have to do, especially with those guys. They're there. They're at the top. So there's nowhere for them to go. So they're going to treat the people like they need to be treated. Now, that may not be true for all, but for the ones that I saw and that I worked with a lot, those guys were my training. They didn't know it, but they were helping train me to say, hey, this is how you talk to people. This is how you do the people. And this is how you get everybody to work as a team.
That makes sense, and I've seen that in you. I mean, you're very open to talking to people, even though they're not sometimes directly in your chain of command. I definitely am not, but that's okay. I've actually come up and talked to you and told you some situations, and I'd appreciate that you actually took the time to listen to me. That's a good leader.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that. The other thing that I like about the military frame of mind is we train people to take our jobs. We train people to replace us.
That's right.
That is a concept that most people would go, oh my God, I don't know about that. I kind of like where I'm at. I don't want to give it up. But yeah, nothing is permanent anyway.
Exactly. That part right there is the truth, Lord. Look, let's look at big corporations, right? A lot of times people who come in, they're like, hey, I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to keep it to myself because that's going to save my job. No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
You will still lose your job if they want you to.
Yeah.
And then they will bring somebody else in to do the exact same job. So it's not about you holding on to information. It's about getting that information out and making people be successful by using their information to help build yourself up and give them their kudos when they do their work.
Absolutely. And I also tend to believe that if you are managing properly, your work actually gets easier because you've got a bunch of people who can do the same thing you can do. You don't need to be there leaning over people's shoulders.
That's exactly right. It's kind of, I learned again from another general, man. He was like, there's a time when you're an operator.
Are we going to name drop?
No.
No, darn.
Actually, it was, okay, I name dropped this one. This was General Philip Turn.
Okay.
He was like, there's a time when you're an operator, and then there's a time when you have to see the bigger picture.
Sure.
And a lot of people have that problem with switching the two. And he gave me this. He said, when you're a colonel, you're kind of still an operator, but once you go into the general officer side, you have to learn to be the bigger picture guy. And he said, and that's where they can actually see, can you flip the switch? And I can tell you, it's a hard switch to flip, especially coming from the military where we're very much hands-on, versus coming to the corporate side where you're kind of like, hey, I have to guide these people and guide the different business units so that we can get what we need to get done.
Sure. There's a lot more moving parts.
Oh yeah, very, very much more.
And to a certain extent, government tends to be able to be a little bit flat in its responses in the way it does things and a little bit laborious. Mm-hmm. Corporate can't afford that.
Exactly.
Okay, and as a matter of fact, that could be the nail in the coffin for any corporation that acts or conducts themselves in such a way. So one of the things that I noticed about your resume, which I noticed that you spent some time in the Criminal Investigation Division. Now, there's a mystique about that. Oh, my goodness. And it used to be the regulations were that you could not, anything over a sergeant, you couldn't join. But tell me how you got in, and you were not a sergeant. You were a sergeant first class when you got in. How did you do that?
Well.
And what did you do?
I had some fairy dust. No, so typically, in the active duty, you have an abundance of people to pull from. But by this time, I had already done my active time, and I was going into the reserve side of the house. So I went into CID basically because of necessity and because of laziness. I didn't want to drive from Georgia all the way to North Carolina to go to drill every month.
Well, yeah, that would be a good reason.
So I found the next thing, because my whole career I was an MP. So the next step for me would be like, okay, what else can I do here?
Investigate the crimes now.
It was investigations, and it was see. Now, look, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little intimidated by it in the beginning.
It's a very intimidating field.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not a
not easy to
mystique.
get
They don't
in.
tell you much about it either.
No, it's not easy to get in.
Yeah.
You got to do some. You got to do some stuff to get in.
Yep.
So, but because I was a reservist and on that side of the house, and they kind of needed those slots anyway. Typically, no, they don't pick up E7s, but maybe they just the fairy gods just shined a little light on me and said, "Hey, come on in." But whatever the case, I got in, and it was a quick learning curve for me to learn how to go from again being a, let's just say, a MP, field MP, because there's no, you remember back in the day we used to be in the green suit with the, see, I'm dating myself, but you had the white gloves with the white hat and you would be directing traffic. They didn't tell me the whole part about the combat MPs. So, about me being in the field all the time. So that was kind of my background. And then, once I got everything, taken care of and I had to move, CID was the next best step. And, I jumped on it, and man, it worked out to my favor actually.
Wow. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to graphics here, show a little bit of the Army structure on the CID. And if you take a look at this, the CID really does handle a lot of major crimes within the military services. What is the one thing that most people don't know about the CID?
That's a good question. I think most people don't understand them because they don't hear about them a lot. But they handle, like you said, all major crimes. So anytime somebody dies or something like that happens, CID is going to be brought in. If there's some type of major criminal cases going on, like scams, to the effect of maybe people or soldiers are getting scammed by somebody, CID is going to be stepping into those type of cases. And then on the other side of that, it's kind of like the Secret Service, right? Secret Service has its investigation side and it has its protection side.
Sure.
So on the other side of that is all protection. We have a whole protective service battalion, and that's what we do on that side of the house is we handle the top generals that are within the military. So depending on their billet and where they are.
Okay. You went from there to what, Homeland Security?
So, and again, the unique portion about my whole career is that it ran parallel with each other. So,
Okay.
as you know, I started as an MP back in 1988,
Sure.
National Guard, went to active duty in Fort Hood, Texas, got out, and then I went into law enforcement. Now, the only reason I did that was because at that time, I was too young to be a cop. I
Right.
had to be at least 21 to be a cop. I always wanted to be a cop anyway. So I was like, well, if I can't be it on the outside, I can be one on the military side.
So you're doing all this at a fairly young age. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, well, look, I knew I wanted to be a cop at like 10 years old.
Where are you from?
North Carolina, Dunn, North Carolina.
I've been there. I've been there. Yes.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
man. So look, that was my whole goal once I got older, and again, because I couldn't be a police officer on the civilian side, I went into the military to fill that time. So what that actually did was give me a lot of experience, so that when I got out and came back into the civilian side, I had some background into it. So that helped me out quite a bit. But yeah, all of that led up to where I was. So when I was in CID, I was actually I had just started working at Homeland Security. But before that, when I was just an MP, I had already become a police officer, sheriff's deputy, and then a highway patrolman. So I was all right there, and it was all pretty much in the same area.
Wow. You've had careers that most people would do a one-off, and that would be what they have. You've had multiple careers that are one-offs. When you went to Homeland Security, you ended up being a trainer, and tell me about that role.
So yeah, I came in. I left highway patrol and drove on down to Georgia. Not sure what I had just gotten myself into, but I did know I didn't have to work weekends or in the snow anymore. So I got down and I was with the firearm division. So that's all we did every day. We were on the line. We were helping students learn. And I absolutely loved it. And then once I was there for a little bit, I switched over to the counterterrorism division. because it kind of mimicked what I was already doing with the reserve side. So
Sure.
in our counterterrorism division at the time, we had a course that we taught was the protective services, which is the same thing as I was doing on the reserve side. So
Isn't that amazing how that seems to have translated well into?
it did. It kind of, like I said, within the law enforcement realm, man, in the whole career field, there's a lot of different avenues that people don't know about. And, it's more than just running out the bad guys every day. There's investigations. There's the forensic side. There's, all kinds of stuff, man. Just I was even a polygrapher for highway patrol. So it's a lot of stuff, man.
Well, you know what? That every one of those stops along the way, government work, your military work, all of that has added to the skill set, correct?
That is correct. It kind of built the person that I am today.
Okay, and what person are you today if you had to characterize yourself? I'd love to hear what you characterize yourself as.
Man, look, I'm just as I tell people, I'm just a regular old country boy from Dunn, North Carolina, man. But as far as the law enforcement, I just said out I was blessed to have a very diverse career within it, because, man, it was so much stuff that I've done that, just most people wouldn't do.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain something to you. I'm looking right at you out here. Regular good old country boys don't have master's degrees in leadership and bachelor's degrees in law enforcement. Okay? He does.
Yes, they do.
All right. So, I mean, let's call it like it is. It's sort of like Larry Bird saying, I'm just a hick from French Lick, just before he buries you. Okay? I know better. I have no doubt that you could actually work in the investigation division over there if you wanted to without any trouble whatsoever. But you actually oversee all of the functions as far as security worldwide, don't you?
Well, currently I have the Western region, because we're broken up into regions.
Okay, Western region.
So I have everything from Texas.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, I have everything from Texas all the way up through Canada back to the West Coast.
Well, if you ever need anybody to speak German and you ever need just somebody to go, I will volunteer and I'll go. You just thought I'd throw that out.
That might be coming up soon.
He's my boss, so I have to throw something out there. But no, after you've done that, and then you spent your time in CID, and then you went to Homeland Security. You've done your work as a police officer. What are the things that you really have taken away from each one of those jobs that you said, wow, this is so ingrained in me now. I couldn't do it any other way but this, because this has been a standard way I've been doing this for so many years.
Well, this all is going back up to the military. That's where it's going to go right back to the military. That was the foundation, right?
Yep.
And so, being a first sergeant, that second place is not an option, right, for us. So we had to get up and we had to take pride in everything that we did. We had to take pride in our uniforms. We had to take pride in the mission. The mission came first. We had to make sure that everything was done, by the book. And so that translated from not only the military. Once I got out, I had to do the exact same thing. I was a police officer. My uniform standards never changed. And I'm sure, as you know today, my uniform standard still has not changed.
No, we still go through inspections every day, which I suppose is not a bad thing, because I've seen a lot of individuals who probably could do some work on that.
But that stuff is important, because you only get one time to make that first impression.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you're out there, especially within the law enforcement community or the security community, if somebody is looking at you, they're going to size you up right immediately when they look at you based off of how you look then. So as I say in briefings, if you look like bubblegum, people are going to chew you up and spit you out. So the best thing you can do is don't be bubblegum.
I thought you were going to say bubblegum. But that being said, you do run a very strict, being nice and being fair does not equate to turning your cheek and letting things go either. There's a fine line in leadership. And the one thing that I've noticed is that you do expect people to do their jobs and do them well. But you will back up people who are being unfairly treated as well.
That is correct, man. Look, you can't do your job if you're you have to look over your shoulder every 2 minutes, right? So my whole function is to make sure that I move obstacles out of people's way so that they can be successful. And with that, we have to be fair and just to everybody that comes across, whether you're brand new or whether you've been doing this for years.
Oh, absolutely. So the big thing that I'm looking at it as a whole is that when you take over a large organization like this, or you take over a position in a large organization, it tends to be a bigger problem when you how's the best way of putting it? It comes with inherent problems and systemic groups that tend to create problems. And then you have to step in and basically unscrew that. And that's not the word I would have used, but you have to unscrew that. Then you have to rearrange the whole corporate climate and corporate feel. And that's not an easy thing to do. So that is a bit of a problem, I would say.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Look, it has its challenges. Anywhere you go, people are going to tend to stick with people who are similar to them. So anytime you start making those changes or you have to change things, a lot of times some people get probably, I would say, bent around the edges because they think you're personally attacking them, but that's not really the case. It just comes with the moves. And if we have cliques that are there that are not healthy or not functional, then we need to make sure that we change those things up so that we can put the right people in the right place. And that's one of my biggest things that I say is you have to have the right people in the right place doing the right thing, or your organization's not going to be successful.
That is true. Absolutely. And corporate climate is everything. When you start to talk about the rules, regulations, and all the things that you put in place, they all have to make sense. And I think the structure that I joined the military at 17 years old, and then went away. That structure has meant everything to me. There's no way around it. I could have done anything I've done without having gone through the military, and spent time learning discipline, learning that your personal needs and wants aren't always the most important thing.
That's right. Look, even on the law enforcement side, I always say that people ask, well, law enforcement guys are always buttholes and they always yelling and screaming. We don't like them. But I asked him, I was like, let me ask you something. When is the last time that you called the police officer over to your house and said, hey, I know you've been out there working all night long and you've been taking calls. How about come get some cookies or some milk? Or,
yeah,
hey, you want to have a cup of coffee? Come by, swing by.
There you go.
That stuff doesn't happen. So when you're out there, it's not about being you for the most part, because you're that person that the society is going to look to help. So when they're running, you can't run. You have to go to the threat, whatever that may be, so that you can neutralize that threat.
It is a whole different way of thinking. Yes. I do remember being in the military and being in units where we knew something could go down, and I had already prepared myself at any given time, particularly since I spent a lot of time outside the wire. We didn't back down. Mm-hmm. That was never the clue. That was never an option. I remember when we were towards the end of 2004 or 2006, we were looking at a lot of the military were pulling out of different bases and shutting them down.
Right.
But that didn't stop the terrorists from still launching as many mortars as they could on us whenever they could. Or trying to do drive-bys, their own version of drive-bys. Yep. And what happened is that the first ID and the third ID were the last ones that I worked under, because the 81st was there for a while too. Mm-hmm. And their motto was that they would follow you into hell if they had to. You shot at one of them, you went after one of them, they're coming after you.
You know what? That is one of the biggest things I think that draws people to the military, or that military members who get out miss, because you have a brotherhood. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter what you think. Nope. It doesn't matter your religious beliefs, your political beliefs. When you go to battle, it's that man next to you, left or right, or woman, left or right, who's in the foxhole fighting with you.
He's got your back or she's got your back.
Exactly right. So everything else goes away, and it's about let's get that threat, let's neutralize it. So that camaraderie is something that people just I don't think have an appreciation for. And a lot of times that's one of the things that happens when people get out of the military that they miss so much is because it's really hard to find that in organizations.
Yeah, well, you can find it in the police organizations.
Well, yeah.
You find sometimes the fire departments. I think it comes down to those who are willing to risk their lives for others and put things on the line for others. Those are kind of very unique people who tend to gravitate towards that kind of career.
Yep. So it's funny that most military people will end up getting out of military and they will go right into law enforcement or firefighters or EMS or some type of emergency management system because it's what they're used to. They're used to the structure. They're used to operating under stressful conditions.
Yep.
So people are going to go to those things. Shucks. Even my wife, she was in the military. She went law enforcement route right along with me. So
that must have been a house where you didn't mess around and do stupid things.
No. We didn't want to do that. Everybody had guns in the house.
Yeah. That was the one thing that I've always been curious about because every post I've ever been on, and a lot of times, even military posts now are becoming armed posts now. And I think it's a necessity. I think it's absolutely crazy that you go on a military post and the only only rifles on a post are in a vault and then nobody can get to. I think they've kind of changed that. They have shooters and stuff like that. Is there ever going to be a time you can institute a police officer on Warner Brothers property who can respond to active shooters?
A police officer?
Well, you probably have to have a police officer. I don't think you want to give it to guards.
Yeah. I won't say that they would be on the property, but we've been doing a lot of training with Burbank PD, and their response time is so quick that once we call them, it's less than a minute, then somebody's going to be coming through that gate and to help us out. And they know the process of what we have in place to make sure that they get to where they need to be quickly. And as they start getting in, they are already setting up their operations because, basically they become the lead. So, but we've worked with those guys and ladies from that department, man, and I think we've got a pretty good
handle on it.
Yeah, and what's funny is I'm not to boast, but they did say you guys are probably one of the best that we've worked with.
Oh, I love that. You know what? We got to do the fist bump on that. See that. That is cool. I got to tell you, it's been a privilege working over there at Warner Brothers. I've enjoyed it, like everything else. So I know my time's coming. I mean, once these books come out and I start really working on that, I probably won't be back. But that doesn't mean I haven't enjoyed it.
Well, look, Lloyd, and most people think you have to be in a specific title or specific role to be a leader, and you don't. Most leaders are kind of behind the curtains. You never see them, but they're there helping. And I know from your background and with you being a first sergeant, and you and I have talked about this before, how you've helped. So titles are here today and gone tomorrow. But the leadership that's inside of a person never goes away.
I agree with you. And the other thing you have to also consider too, I think, is towards the end of my military career, I started accepting positions where I could really just kind of, not necessarily coast, because that wouldn't be the correct word, but when I was at the 79th as one of the top public affairs officers, I had a role, and it was specific, and it was very streamlined, and I liked that. But I wasn't necessarily in charge of a whole lot. And I think when I left the military and I started hitting my 60s, I kind of said, let the young lions do this. Mm-hmm. It's time for me at my age, 61, 62, and 63, 64, to take a different approach. Because I can always tell when people haven't been in charge, there's the ones that scream about being in charge. They scream the loudest. The people who have been in charge are going, I'm tired. I'm done. I'm good. That young kid over there, man, that kid looks like they've got it together.
Exactly. It's funny you mention that. It reminds me of when I went to Warrant Officer Candidate School.
Oh, and I want to talk about that. Why Warrant?
I bet you do. So Here's what you didn't know.
All right.
I went to Warrant Officer school at about age 40. So
That ain't easy because they don't play with you at that.
look, we got out and we started running PT, and I was in pretty good shape. You know, jump out, we'd call cadence with these young guys, man. They were running at a whole nother speed. I didn't see not one squirrel, no birds, no nothing. Man, look, I jumped out there to call cadence. I couldn't say nothing but left, right, left, and I got back in line because I needed all the air I could get.
Yeah.
I was like, man, what are y'all running so fast? Where we gotta go?
Yeah.
But you know, it brings me back to as we progressed on through the course, and I was talking to one of the techs, one of the officers who were over us, who was our trainers, and he said, I want to sit down and talk to you guys about your leadership styles. And we were going around the table, and he got to me, and he was like, you're like a chameleon. And I was like, what? He's like, you're like a chameleon.
Is that a good thing?
Well, that's what I was like, man, what you mean? He said, you hide, and then when somebody needs some leadership, you come out, you train them, or you do what you need to do, but then you go right back in like nobody sees you. And I thought about that. I was like, you're right. Because these other candidates that are here with me, or now warrant officers that were there with me, they're younger than me.
Yeah.
So I have a whole lot more experience. So, they would say, we're going to the field. To age myself, I'm like, hey, where's the GP mediums and where's the GP smalls? We got to get the tents. We got to get these.
Yep.
We got to get the poles. They're like, we don't have that. We don't need that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we don't have a load plan. So it was just stuff like that
We have load cards. What do we have? Yeah.
Exactly. So this was the stuff that I've learned from a private coming up, even in Desert Storm, all of that stuff. I'm like, okay, I have this experience, so might as well use it. So these new people are coming in, and you have to realize some of these candidates that come through Warrant Officer School are from different walks. So you may have somebody who's been basically administrative, like AG. You might have infantry. You might have aviation, special forces.
But for the audience, edification of the audience, unlike although all Army are infantry,
Yep.
but especially all officers. So officers take a big hit and they take a lot of criticism, but what people don't realize is that is their first and primary function.
That's right. But when you come in, and if something, you don't do it every day, you forget. Those basic skills you forget. But being a MP, a combat MP, at point, those are the same skills that we practice every other week. That we're out there, we have to go through our testing or all of our other stuff.
Clearing rooms, stuff like
I forgot
that.
what that little book was called. You remember the little green book that had all the tests in it, like first aid and.
Oh my goodness, you're going back so many years.
Well, Lloyd.
Yeah, but
I
go back to the green uniform.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
In 1979 is when that ended. I think it was 1979, 1980. No, I think it was 1979, because I was over in Heidelberg, Germany, and it was the last year they had it. And I'm like, and I love that uniform.
Yeah, well, I came in, it was
I don't remember the book.
It was camos, but I can't remember it was skill level. It was a skill level test.
Oh, skill levels. They were the little
the little books.
Yeah.
It was the skill level test 1 through 4 and all of that. So those were those things that we did all the time. But for somebody who may be in an AG role, you're probably not going to do that.
No.
You're not going to remember how to respond to indirect fire. So those were those times where I would be like, okay, they'd be like, does anybody know? In any school, you don't raise your hand. You just try to be quiet.
Yeah.
And I just reach over and be like, to 180 degrees and run. And they'd be like, we do 180 degrees and run. That's right.
Okay, it's called a squad. Yes.
Yeah.
Squad automatic weapon. Okay, lift that top up.
Yeah.
Put the bolts that way. Slam it back down. Pull that back. Charge it. You're good to go.
That's all you say, man. You keep it moving. And
Why don't you teach the class on how to do the saw? No, I'm great. The 249's yours, pal. I ain't carrying it.
Exactly. It's heavier than it looks.
Yeah, but those are the days. I remember when I went through Fort McClellan, and I remember back in the day, 1978. A drill sergeant could hit you, okay, and there wasn't nothing you were going to do about it. So, what happened was, I remember I'm going through, and my name is. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but my name was Private Numbnuts. That was not appreciated. And I remember one time I walked in, and these drill sergeants would stand in the gas chambers without gas masks on. Wow. Years later, I could do that. But when I couldn't do that when I was a 20-year-old kid or 18-year-old kid, I walked in there, and I don't know what I did. I gave him an attitude, the drill sergeant. Well, he punched me in the stomach. I started running towards the door because I was out of air. And he's like, "Oh, no, Private Numbnuts, we're not done because you got to do your name, rank, and serial number." And I'm trying to... and then and he let me out. And he walks out, looks at me and smiles and goes, "You got anything else to say?" No, drill sergeant, none.
Hey, those are the days, man. Somebody posted the other day, I think on Facebook, it was a picture of Delta 40. I was at McClellan, too. And,
Yeah.
And I went to McClellan a little bit later, but it was 89 when I went there.
Yeah.
And it didn't change. I just remember Drill Sergeant Jaskins, man. He walked up to me. He was like, "Your name is Morrison, isn't it?" I was
Lord.
I was like, "Yes, Drill Sergeant. I got your name, and I'm gonna F you up."
Oh,
I was like,
man.
"Oh my God, what did I do to you? I just got here, man." But turned out to be one of the best drill sergeants. Man, look, it turned out to be one of the best drill sergeants. Here I am over 40 years ago, 30-something years, not 8-9 years now. I still remember him.
But they improvised. I got into a fight with a guy. I kicked his butt who claimed he was a black belt. And I certainly was not a black belt. I was just young and fast. That's all I was.
JCPenney's have black belts.
Huh?
JCPenney has black belts.
Does he? Well, anyways, I kicked his butt, and the drill sergeants walked in on it, and they went, "You two, come on. We're going to the rec room." Back then, it was smoking in the buildings. So we're sitting there, and the drill sergeants take a seat, and they got their beer, they got their cigarette, and they're taking bets. Okay, and I'm a skinny 6'2" kid, and he goes, the one gets me. He's taking a bet and betting on me. He says, "Don't do the head thing. Don't go head hunting. Okay, you need to take him down." And he's giving me all this advice, and I'm going, "Wow." And then the other was telling him, "Go for the head, go for the head."
Oh my goodness.
So anyways, he takes a swing, and he was pathetically slow. I don't know how he ever thought he could actually pull off calling himself a fighter. I put him down in probably less than 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I don't even know if it's that much. And the drill sergeant looks at me and goes, "You can go." He ended up, because he lost the fight, he ended up doing latrine duty.
Oh my goodness. Hey, look, just because they say it doesn't make it out. Doesn't
Doesn't make it so. Yeah.
But so I know you mentioned Warrant.
Why Warrant, by the way? I do want to know, first of all, for the young people that are watching this and then they're thinking about staying enlisted, going officer or warrant, what are the three areas that all three of them kind of have a little bit of difference in? Why is it? What's the best about each of them that you would, if you were to give me a selling point in each one of those areas, what would it be?
Of which areas of it?
Of being an enlisted man, being an officer, and being a warrant. What would be the selling points for each one of those?
So let's just start with the ones I know, being enlisted. Look, that again, you're going to learn so much, and the leadership that you're going to develop and be able to transfer to the younger people coming in is invaluable. It's something that you can't put a price on. You will be able to see the growth of somebody that you're mentoring or you're helping. Or if you're a squad leader, you're going to see your squad, because you're going to get privates in there who, brand spanking new to the military, don't know anything, and you're going to be that face that trains them. I'll never forget. When I was in Desert Storm, and there was a guy named Sergeant, I think his name was Sergeant Gay, and we were out one day. He's like, "Hey, do you know how to do like defiles and stuff like that?" Which was a traffic, how we direct traffic and stuff. And he was like, "Have you ever?" And coming from a National Guard, he's like, "When you drive this Humvee, why do you drive it so delicately?" I was like, "That's what we did. National Guard, we know if we break it, we're not getting a new one, so we just drive it.
It's true.
We drive it like our granddaddy's Cadillac." So he said, "Move, let me show you."
Yeah.
So, man, we were.
That gets airborne then.
Thank you. We were out there jumping dunes and there. So, I remember it translated with it to later. I was driving. They were we were at Fort Bragg, and they were doing a training.
Oh,
exercise.
they got some roads back there in the Fort Bragg.
Yes, sir. And trees too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And
you found every one of them.
So he said, the colonel was like, "Hey, I want to go out with you. I want to ride. You're going to be my driver." I was like,
all right.
He caught me on the right day. I said, I went back to that training, man. We were out there jumping here, and if it was a tree, if it was small enough, I hit it.
Yeah.
And we were just going through the woods, and I was just driving. I was dogging that thing, man. And when we got back, I was for sure he was like, I ain't around with him. He was like, I rode with Specialist Morrison, and that was the best driving I've ever seen. I was like,
He's my driver now.
I know, right? I messed up on that, but. I say that to say, look, you learn a lot, and you're able to transfer that as an enlisted guy. And look, that's where the rubber meets the road. You are the people you are the operators at that point. Now, for the warrant side of the house, well, let me skip the warrant. Let me go to the officer side. The officer side is going to be the guys who are going to be saying, hey, this is what we want to do, kind of like your corporate side of the house. Hey, look, this is what we need to do. Hey, First Sergeant, this is what I need for you to get done. First Sergeant decides how this is going to happen. And then they tell him, he's like, yay or nay. He signs off on it and he goes. But his job is just to give you the mission and let the NCO...
Let it fly.
Let it fly, that's right. Now, the warrant. Nobody knows what a warrant does.
Nobody does. They're the guys that are sitting in a corner somewhere, and they're sitting there on their computers doing this and this and this, and they're not looking up at you. They don't need to look at you. You're unimportant.
Yeah, we're
you
not
don't
in PG.
mean anything to me. And then you're going,
What do they do?
go away.
But the reality is, look, the warrant is in between Officer Corps and the Enlisted Corps, right? And what we do, we are basically the subject matter experts of the field that we're in. So if you're
You're the Schmeeds.
yeah, exactly, the SME. I hadn't heard that in a long time. So if you're an aviator, your specialty is you fly the helicopters or whatever aviation assets we have. If you're an investigator, you investigate death and criminal cases.
Yep.
And it goes on. Special ops, they do their thing, what they do over there. But
Did you have back then? Did they have feeder MOSs? Because when I was in, you had to have a feeder MOS. Just because you wanted to be warrant didn't mean you got it, because you had to have an MOS that fed into warrant officer.
I think they
school.
get away with it, and you just if you want to come in, you can come in.
That's how long it's been since I've been out. Thank you.
Look, it changes every year, so you have to check. But
Yeah.
So basically, the warrants are the advisors for your command staff. So if your command staff wants to do something or plan something that's in your wheelhouse, you are the advisor to say, hey, this is the best way to do it. This is how we do it, and this is how we should do it. Now, whether they listen to that or not, that's something else. But at least you gave them the information.
At least you gave them the advice. If you had to give some advice to some young woman or man who's thinking about joining the military, what would you say to them right now?
Join.
That's
Look.
quick, easy.
Yeah, look, if you're undecided, and let's just say right now you're just kind of job to job, go to the military. It's going to give you something that you can use in the future. Now, there are certain MOSs that are great and translate well to the outside. If you know what you want to do, then the military probably has it. Everybody has this misconception like I'm gonna get into the military and I'm going to war.
Yeah.
Your war may not be the same war as everybody else's.
It's not as glorified as you think it is, or glorious as you think it is.
Yeah.
I used to hate that when I was over in Iraq, and I'd hear some young guy come over and go, "I'm going to get me some." What exactly are you going to get? A whole lot of life, a lifetime of remembering what you had to do to take something from somebody, regardless of what they've done. You're taking something from them that they have and will never have forever, for the rest of eternity.
You're right. Look, it is not everybody goes to the front line. Look, the people on the front line cannot sustain and cannot be successful if, number one, they don't get paid.
Logistics, beans and bullets.
Minus a furlough.
Yeah.
But if they're not getting paid on a regular basis, they don't have bullets, they can't eat, they don't get their mail, that stuff plays a factor.
Yep.
And so all those people who are doing those things, they're important. If you don't, and I tell people even to this day in corporate America, where you may see a person in janitorial services come through and you're talking down to them, let that trash not get empty for a month. See how you feel.
Yeah.
Somebody has to do that, right? So everybody is important for us to get the mission done. And that is what I would tell. Look, there are great benefits that come along with being in the military. Again, I got my education, my master's and my bachelor's. I don't have to pay a student loan because I got it through my GI Bill. So it's going to give you those skills that you need to be leaders out here in America. So look, go for it. And again, of course, you know, you get health care at the end. You have the option to use the VA if you need it. So there's just so many. And here's the big one: you get a chance to use your VA loan to buy a house. That's right now in the economy. If you have a VA loan, it's very little talking when you get ready to buy a house on a VA loan.
Oh yeah, I bought a house on a VA loan. It's a great deal.
Yeah.
I own a house in Wisconsin that I'm spending quite a bit of time there, and I actually I love it, and the interest rate was incredible.
And that's the first thing they say is like, hey, are you getting a VA loan? Okay, never mind, don't worry about it. We got everything from here.
Yep.
So now, if you go in there and you didn't have a VA loan, now they got to go through your bank accounts. They've got to go through everything to see if you can afford it. The military is saying, or the government is saying, hey, this person did their time. We're going to back them for this amount of.
And the magic bullet is 180 days plus.
That's still correct. 180 days.
And if you put in more than 180 days, you are eligible for VA benefits. You're eligible for anything that the VA has. And trust me, the benefits far outweigh the pay that you will ever receive in the military.
Exactly, because you're going to need it. Now, as you're young and you're out there where you're indestructible, you don't think about it. But as you start to get older, you start to learn that everything that you've done in the past is going to break you down a little bit, piece by piece. So you're going to need that VA support sometime. Absolutely.
Last question I have for you. Everybody has a phrase that encapsulates their lives, what they see in their lives. There are people who will give you the phrase, "This too shall pass," when they're going through hard times. I've used that multiple times, and the audience knows my phrase, which I probably all right, I'll say it, and then they're probably going, "Oh, he's not going to do it again." Yes, I am. All right, here it is. A man who serves himself only, serves no one of consequence. That's a layered phrase. Okay? That means that you are not worthy of serving yourself or anybody else because that's all, your only concern is you.
Yep.
Okay. That's the phrase that my father taught me. What phrase just encapsulates how you believe about life? What you believe about life?
I would say, if I had to sum it all up, Lloyd, I would say that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That is spoken like a true leader. So, that being said, as you can see, I'm with a guy who has a master's degree in leadership. You just heard one of the things that makes him actually quite engaging as a leader, and I've had some time to spend around him. Don Morrison, Vice President of Regional Vice President of Warner Brothers. There you go. Everything he just said encapsulated what you need to know about him. He does care, and I actually enjoy working for him.
Thank you, Lloyd.
So, thank you, bud.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I appreciate you having me today.
That will be it for the Military Historian, this episode of Why Warrant. And catch us on the next episode of The Military Historian. I'm your host, Lloyd Shellenberger. Peace out. Oh, and by the way, if you actually like this, I keep have to forget to ask this, but if you actually like this, maybe you can smash that button and hit the like button and hit it.
It's
up to you.
Hit it. Don't be scared.
Okay, listen to him. All right? Have a good day.